I really do need to first of all thank Frank. I met Frank about 1.5 years ago, and he's really had this vision to have a makerspace here. And I feel really privileged to be able to work with him. He's been a visionary on this, and he's really inspired me more than anything to help me get to where I'm at and working on this project. So I would like you guys to give Frank a hand for really, he's spent a lot of years trying to get this off the ground, and here we are today, so thank you. Frank talked to you about some of the things that we're going to do and some of the things that we need, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about who we are. I'm going to be dropping some F-bombs, so it's okay if you have kids here. They are family-friendly F-bombs, but they're not fun. We feel like everybody gets to a point in their life where they feel like they're stuck, and there's different reasons why we get stuck, but it's not a fun place to be. We feel like there could be this one little thing, that if we could just get it out of our way, if somebody could just help me with this one thing, if I just learn this one thing, then it'll all bust wide open for me, right? And there's a lot of different things that can get you stuck. So one of those things is fear. Okay, fear can get us stuck. We're afraid of the unknown. We don't know what'll happen. I left my job in October, my corporate 9-to-5, and now I don't have a job. And that's pretty scary, but I'm also here talking to you, and I'm following my passion. So there's a give and take. I can't do both. I can't have that safety and comfort and also follow my passion right now. It's just those are two conflicting things, but there's some fear that goes along with that. The next is frustration, right? We try at something and we're just banging our heads against the wall and we never seem to win. We always kind of come up short for some reason, and you end up getting frustrated, okay? And the last thing, failure. I love this one. Trying is the first step towards failure. If you're not failing, you're probably not trying anything very difficult. So you're going to have those times where you just fall down. And what you really need are people around you that can help you and that can pick you back up. I'd like to just share a personal story of mine. I still remember, and I don't know why it hangs in my head, but I played Little League Baseball since I was like 5, and I loved playing baseball. I played all the way up until I think I was in 7th grade. And I think that was at the point where I was going to be moving from Little League to Babe Ruth or something like that. It was like I was going up to the next level, and I was scared. I didn't think I could do it, and what I told my parents is I just said, well, I didn't want to play baseball anymore, and really that was it. So they just took it at face value, and that was it. And there's this little thing that just bugs me. It's just bugged me that I quit, and I don't want to do that. And what I would really rather do is help people that are at that point to be able to make it and to not quit. So I want to talk to a few of our makers here, and I know all of them have experienced at least one of these 3 things. Okay, the first is Melt. You probably saw her out here with some of her glass lamp work. And this is Ashley. I met Ashley last week. You guys see some of her beautiful stuff? It was great. And so Ashley, I was talking to you earlier, and I think one of those things that I heard you talking about was that fear of even getting started. So if you could just kind of share with people what that fear was and how you got over it, I appreciate it.
So I make glass beads and pendants, and some of you have seen me outside making some of those things. I remember a little over 3 years ago walking into a few shops up in the northeastern area and just seeing some glass that was incredible and wondering what people did to actually make those things. And I paint as well, as you can see, and I do a lot of other things, but those things are pretty easy. I mean, a paintbrush is not dangerous, and neither is paint. Unless you inhale it, don't do that. So when I moved back down south, it took me about 6 months to really do all my research and decide to get all of the supplies. Well, I bought my torch, I bought everything with it, and to go with the torch, you may see outside I have a really short oxygen tank, but actually the oxygen tank that you're supposed to use is 5 feet tall, which is almost my height, and I'm just petrified that it's just going to explode at this point. So I hook up up everything, and I literally sit and stare at my torch for 4 months. And I'm like, I cannot turn this on. I'm just going to turn it on, and the whole house, which I don't own, is going to blow up. And then, oh my gosh, what's going to happen after that? So finally, one day, when everyone was gone from the house, I finally sat down, so I didn't risk anybody else's life but mine. So I finally sat down, and I remember just reading websites over and over again about oxygen pressure and everything, and making sure I knew exactly what needed to be done. And I finally turned on my torch, and nothing blew up. And no crazy sounds happened, nothing crazy happened, and I just remember almost being in tears at that point, because this thing that I was so scared of, I finally got over it, and I finally turned on the torch, and 3 years later, I've only burnt myself really seriously one time. It was quite good, and I've only ever burned up a very small rag. So I think my risk has been pretty low, or at least my accidents have been very low.
Thank you. I think with your family and your boyfriend at the time, sounded like it really encouraged you a lot, and a lot of times that's what it takes, somebody to just kind of keep nudging you along until you figure it out, and they have a little more faith and confidence in you than you do. And we need people in our community that can help do that. Thank you. Next is one of Frank's brothers, John Callahan, and he makes these beautiful wooden bowls here. And I talked to him for a few minutes out in the lobby, and he shared part of the story of how he got into making these bowls. And I thought it was pretty amazing, so I asked him to come and share for a minute how that happened.
My name is John Callahan. I live in a little town called Alma, Georgia, which is about 3.5 hours from here. I am a retired school teacher and coach. And all through my life, I've always enjoyed building things. And it wasn't until I met a man at our local fair, arts fair, in Alma, Georgia, I saw these bowls. And I went to find out who did it, and I come to find out it was a man who was a paraplegic. He was strapped in a wheelchair and had the use of 2 fingers, and he made these bowls. So I became friends with him and started to visit him at his house to find out how he was doing it. So I would go in and watch him, but I didn't have a lot of time because I was teaching and coaching, which if anybody does that, they know it takes a lot of time. So I asked him if I could, when I retire, would he teach me how to do this? And unfortunately, a year and a half before I retired, he died. And I thought I'd lost it. So, and come to find out, I found out so late, he'd sold all his equipment and everything, so it was gone. So then about a year later, I had about a half a year left of teaching, I found a mature magazine where they interviewed people that were retired and did handiwork, and there was a guy that did segmented bowls. Well, I called him up. He left his number in there if anybody was interested. Well, I called him up, and he lived about an hour from me, and I spent the next 3 days going to his house, and we built a bowl together. And from that, I fell in love with it. It's kind of funny, as people that work with woodworking, you find out what works for you. I worked 3 days with him. I don't use any of his techniques. But from him, I learned how to make them, and I developed my own techniques. And I live out in the swamps. I live right above the Okefenokee swamps, and I live deep in the woods. So I don't have a lot of contact with a whole lot of people, but I love people. And I have actually taught 11 other people how to do this, and anybody that has an interest in it, I would be more than happy. You can come stay at our farm. You know, my brothers will attest. I've got plenty of room and space. And not only that, but I also have all the wood out there that I need. So that's my story. That's how it happened.
Thank you. So part of making is sharing. It's sharing what you've made, and it's sharing that knowledge and that skill. And people that really get into it, they want to share. We need people like John that are going to help the next generation figure out and learn how to do the things so they're not lost art. And the next person is actually one of our partners, our founding members. We met Mark. Mark, come on down here for a second. And when we saw what Mark was doing and heard his story, we thought, this is the exact person we need. This is the kind of guy that stumbled into the experience and I want to let him just tell you a quick little bit about what he did and how he started making these Enigma machines and how it helped him be able to follow his passion.
All right, thank you, David. Good evening. I'm Mark Tessier. I'm the T of S&T Geotronics. So obviously there's an S, which would be my neighbor, friend, and business partner, James Sanderson, back there. So, and I want to say up to 10 months ago, I've had a job, 9 to 5, and every second Thursday I knew there was a paycheck coming in. And then in June of last year it stopped. And if you want to know what fear is, I definitely felt it at that moment. But the story really starts 18 months ago. We're planning an event for at the FDR State Park for geocaching. This mega event, we wanted to create a multi-stage, complicated adventure where there'd be some encrypted messages, and we're talking among ourselves, and then how are we going to encrypt these messages? And then our friend Chip Thomas suggested, well, why don't you use an Enigma machine? So I said, what's that? And they explained to me that the Enigma machine was what the Germans were using in the Second World War to encrypt secret messages among themselves about enemy vessels' location so they could target them. So anyway, so can't buy an Enigma. Turns out after a little research that none are available, and the few that were available sell for $100,000 to $200,000. So okay, we'll buy a kit. Well, there's no kits available. So James says, okay, it's not a problem, let's make one. Okay, so we get Arduinos. Of course, by that time, the mega event is 5 weeks away, and so you want stress and pressure? Okay, so we have to come up with one within 5 weeks. So we get the Arduino, and James starts designing the circuit, how we're going to get the buttons, the lights, and the code. And we work on that. It took us 3 weeks to build this one, and James says, well, if we're ever going to build a second one of those, I'm going to want $1,000. So we'll get back to that. So we get it done in 3 weeks, with 2 weeks to spare, and I'm pretty happy about it. Took a ton of pictures. So one Sunday afternoon, I'm bored, and I decided to go on a website called Instructables.com. If you haven't been, go have a look at Instructables.com. It's a place where people show how you can make it. Here, I made this, and here's my recipe. Here's how I did it. So that Sunday afternoon, I write up how anybody can make its own Enigma machine. Not thinking that anybody would really care, but hey, you know, just I had the picture at the time, why not? It's a chance to give back to this wonderful website. So overnight, within 24 hours, I published it on 5 o'clock kind of thing, Sunday night. By 5, 6 p.m. Monday afternoon, I've got 10,000 views on the Enigma machine. I've got feedback from people around the world saying this is cool, this is awesome, I want one, and so on. And people start asking, well, if you could make a printed circuit board, it would help a lot to make one. So, all right, so get back with James, and James says, okay, I'll design one. Creates a circuit board, we started offering it, we create a little website so we can, you know, offer it to those people. Then they say, printed circuit boards are nice, but if we could have a kit, that'd be better. Okay, so make a kit, sell kits. People say, yeah, board's nice, kit's nice, but how about you make me one? Well, you know the price, right? Okay, it's going to be $1,000. So we set it there, thinking that should be enough to discourage anybody, and that they'll leave us alone. And I think we both full-time job, you know, employed, so don't have much time to take care of that. So, and the orders are coming in, and we don't have the quantities or the materials to make these. So okay, there's a problem that I didn't expect. So I suggest let's launch a Kickstarter campaign. So we go on this Kickstarter website and we create a campaign where if you donate this amount of money, $1,000 in this case, we'll give you an Enigma. So this campaign runs for 34 days, and we set the goal at 20,000. We thought 20,000 should be enough to, you know, satisfy the planet's needs and Enigma machines. Really? Well, we blew through that in 7 days. So by the end of the campaign, 34 days later, we got $64,000 coming in. and 200 orders that we now have to fulfill. At this point, I want to mention that we're very proud that we're one of the very few Kickstarter campaigns that delivered every single reward in the amount of time. So, yeah, speed up, right? Okay, so Kickstarter campaign ends, and people start sending us money again, saying, sorry, we missed your Kickstarter campaign, can we still have one? And can we still have one? So the orders kept coming in. We said we'd only make 100. We're making serial number 100 this week as we speak. And
nice.
To do the math, that's why I'm no longer employed. And
wow.
Come June of last year, my employer said, we're shutting down our Georgia operations. Unless you want to move to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, you're out of a job. And for a second, you say, wow, do I need to update my resume and look for a job? Or, is S&T Geotronics going to be, what I do from now on? And I'm actually following my passion. This is the life, and now we're trying to come up with the next product and the next Kickstarter. And I recommend, it takes, there's fear that needs to be overcome, but it's absolutely fascinating.
Awesome. Good story.
A couple things about Mark's story that really resonate with me. First of all is necessity is the mother of invention, right? So you got your back up against the wall, and you're going to figure it out. And then the other thing is, it never even came out of actually wanting to have a business. It was, I want to do something, and I just want to learn how to make something for myself. And then I want to go ahead and share it with other people. And then from there, 100 orders at $1,000 a piece. So that's a pretty nice story. Next, I want to bring up Ryan and Sandra. So Ryan and Sandra both work at Harris County High School, and I met Ryan when we went to talk to the vice principal there, and we wanted to meet the engineering and architecture teacher, and they have a makerspace that they're building, and they've invested a lot in some equipment that we really want to steal from them, that we would really like to have. And then I found out that they had created their own invention, and that they were marketing it, and that they had sold a bunch of them. And I thought, oh, this is a really, really cool story. I want to learn more about it.
I'll talk a little, let her talk a lot, because that's what she does. But really, what we created, I'm sure you saw it, was a pen. It's used to paint with crayon. We work together. She's an artist. I'm a pseudo-engineer. I wouldn't call myself an engineer. But we went back and forth about her idea. Someone saw it, said, hey, we want to do that. A lot of it, I felt like, was luck. Some of it anyways. And the rest of it was really, really hard work. This has been 2.5 years. So it's going to China next week, I think, to get manufactured and eventually distributed. So there's a lot of information there, but I'm going to let Ms. Palmer talk to you and tell you more about it, because this is really her baby.
Well, this is our baby, number one. How many of you got to try the cray pen out there? Was it fun? Did you like it? Well, I find that happens everywhere we go. First thing is, I'll say, oh, try it. People look at me and go, no. And then all of a sudden, they start trying it and they can't put it down. So I've kind of nicknamed it the Zen pen, because you just can't get away from it. But I remember when Ryan is the one who made me do this product. Gary Johannes is sitting here with one of my students, Joanna Wells, and Gary said, y'all need to see a patent attorney about that. And I'm like, I don't have time for that, sorry. And he said, well, you've got to do it. And I said, I'm not, I don't have time. Who has time when you teach, coach, have 5 children in college and everything else? But what we did see the patent attorney, and I am a very overconfident person. And we walked in, and the attorney looked at us, and he supposedly was the attorney that does a lot of the made-on-TV things. And he said, you don't have anything here. Well, I'm very tenacious, as my husband says, and my tenacity took over. And I looked at him, and I said, bet me. So I got my little bag of stuff out, and I said, let me show you what this does. And after we showed him, he said, I want to be the first one to get one of these. Then we knew the company that was pursuing to make this was legitimate. Because at first, our first fear was, will it work? Will people buy it? Why do we want to waste our time? And then the company kept contacting us, kept irritating me even more because I didn't have time for them, but that's where Ryan stepped in. And we ended up failing a lot, blowing things up, not me, him, the engineer. I said, that's not going to work, don't do it. He did it, and it caught on fire. But a lot of failures, a lot of successes, and where we stand now is you've seen the artwork outside. I didn't want this to be a piece of art that anybody could just throw together and say, oh, you're just coloring. I wanted to show that it could go from age whatever to age whatever, and anybody could accomplish it. So the first thing we did was we color matched. Can you cut something out of a magazine and see if you can match the colors right on top of it? Does it fuse to the paper? What makes it not come off? Does it handle heat? Some of my students went to some of the best art shows in the state, and they were under museum lighting, and my first fear was, oh no, we forgot about lighting. Will it melt off? It's crayons, it's wax. And it was cool to the touch, so we were good. Don't put it in your garage at 110 degrees though, because you will have a lot of wax melted, but you wouldn't treat your best Monet that way. So we did end up forming the company, getting together with Surebonder, and as of the 8th of next week, Surebonder is going to China. They are meeting with the manufacturer, and then it'll soon be out on Hobby Lobby, Kmart, Target, Walmart, Joann's, NASCO. I went to market in California and met with all of those people, and they all absolutely loved it, believed in it, tried it themselves, and that's our story.
One thing I want to add is, when we first started, the company actually that's producing it said this isn't going to work. They were like, no, we're not. We don't want anything to do with it. So I kept pushing her, she kept pushing me, and we kept fighting back, and now it's going to happen. So I guess the best thing to remember is, you just got to keep at it, even if people tell you no, which sometimes is the best thing.
Thank you very much. So what immediately struck me about this story is that you have an engineer and an artist, right? How often are they getting together? And we see this all over our community. We see kids that are doing FBLA, and then we see kids that are doing robotics, and you know what? If you're an engineer, you're probably going to need some marketing people, and vice versa, right? And they don't get together. But when they do get together, magic happens. And that's really what Columbus Makes It is about. It's about getting those all different types of people together, because it takes a lot of different skills to really make something happen. And so it's a really great story that you guys worked so hard together, and to see the success that you've had. And again, we want to help some more businesses get off the ground here in Columbus. So I want to wrap it up with 3 more F words. So instead of fear and failure and frustration, we would like to see people have faith. Rudy, if you guys have seen Rudy, okay? Talk about somebody who would not give up and would believe in himself. How about fulfillment? All right? Bugs Bunny, nobody ever gets him down. All right? And my last one is victory. Okay.
Nice.
I didn't have another F-bomb to drop, so it is victory. And with that, I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'm turning it back over to Frank. Yes. So thank you very much.